Hey guys, what's up? This is CG Stuff. I'm here again with a few Blender tips and tricks using Animate Pro. Over here in this scene, I have the skeleton. Let me go into viewport mode. Yeah, there you go. I have the skeleton doing this rage taunt animation, if you will. And we want to do a few things. I want to introduce a few new tools. So over here, I see that this whole scene is a bit crowded, and I want to see the skeleton, let's say, alone. I don't want the floor. I don't want the pillars. I just want to see the skeleton without having to, let's say, hide everything, because I just want to see the skeleton like this. Instead of having to hide everything, I can just there's a tool in Animate Pro. If you have the default top bar, you can go to toggles and you can hover over this tool. This is basically the isolate character. What it does basically, it isolates the rig, even if there's other rigs. Basically, it basically puts it in a temporary collection for you to be able to see it more clearly and to focus on this character. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the rig of this character, enable the toggle, and go into pose mode. This will only work if you're in pose mode. So the second you go into pose mode, automatically what happens is everything associated with this rig will be isolated. So right now I can clearly see my pose. You have to keep in mind that everything associated with this rig, as in if there are constraints on the mesh that is parented under the skeleton, or if it has the armature modifier. In this situation, my weapon, even though this is a linked rig, you have to understand that this weapon has a constraint but does not have the armature modifier, and my pauldron doesn't have neither. It's just parented to the rig. In this situation, if you can see, I go into the pose mode, this pauldron disappears. So when you're rigging, keep in mind that just parenting the pauldron to the rig via this menu, if you go to the relationships, if you see if the parent is the rig and it's parented to a specific bone, this will not work. It has to be parented via the armature modifier or via constraints. In this situation, I don't really care about the pauldron. I just want to see the weapon and the silhouette of the skeleton. Another thing you can do regarding silhouette is, let's say this is not enough for me, I just want to see it in black and white. There's another tool for that, because this is fine and all, and maybe I feel that the shape of the skeleton is a bit noisy for me. What I can do is I can toggle this thing. This is basically pretty much toggle the silhouette. I just have to select the armature, and again, same rules apply regarding the constraints and the armature modifiers of any object that is attached under this rig. If I click on this, you can see a silhouette of your armature basically, and you can start looking at your animation cleanly using silhouette mode. While in silhouette mode, we can start scrubbing through the timeline and inspect our animation for any tangents, any issues with our silhouette. In this situation, I can see that on frame 16, I have a weird tangent here and I'm not a big fan of it. So I want to adjust. So I'm going to exit silhouette mode, and I'm going to whether toggle is on or off is irrelevant, but in this situation I'm going to keep it. And it's as simple as I can just make it like this. But you know what, I'm going to make it a bit more difficult for myself. I'm going to go back here and I'm going to select everything and bake my animation. Why am I doing that? Is because I want to show you guys something else. So right now it's going to be a bit more difficult to adjust it because there's not a single pose anymore. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use the tool, the anim offset. Okay. I think in a previous video I explained what anim offset is, but in this situation it's going to work in our favor because I'm going to just let me showcase it again. The anim offset is basically I'm going to move my axe like this and then disable the anim offset. Now, during the entirety of the animation, the anim offset just moved my axe, but the problem is that you notice that it's like this for the entirety of the animation. The problem with this is that I just want it for this one frame, for this couple of frames, for the axe to be like this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use anim offset mask. So I'm going to come here and I'm going to say that, you know what, from here, frame 13 to frame, let's say 19, I'm going to enable anim offset mask, and I'm going to bring the mask, because what it does basically, it creates these two pins basically, and I can like use these pins to bring them close to here. And I can use the second, they have these secondary pins basically, like the insides and the outside basically. The outside pins basically, they dictate how far the animation is. So in this situation, we said that we want it on frame 19. So you can see here. And the inside pins are how much feathered the animation is. So I'm going to say from here, and I'm going to feather it. So it can basically interpolate, if you will, with the rest of the animation. And now I'm going to make the axe like this, and then I'm going to turn it off. So it's going to do this. And in order to fix this jank, I'm going to go inside the graph editor, and then you can see that there's like a sudden jump. So I'm going to isolate the rotations, since we're clearly working on rotations, and we're going to use the anim sculpt. So I'm going to either click anim sculpt, or you can just press W if you have. I'm going to, again, I did this in a previous video, but again, let me remind you guys that if you go to key maps, you enable this, okay, along with the other tools, like look at these and read up on them. But if you click this tool, this will default to the shortcut Y, and you guys can make the anim sculpt, and just by pressing Shift, which is basically like any like ZBrush or like Blender, you have like the shift that's smoothing out your keys. So in this situation, you can see that only on this frame that we said 13, the axe is not a tangent anymore. This key is not a tangent, and then it goes back to normal, and then he's taunting pretty much. So if I go back to the camera, if I go back to, let's say, rendering, and enable my lights, okay, you can see that this is not a tangent anymore, and yeah, that seems better. That's pretty much it. And yeah, I hope you guys got a gist of these tools. Pretty useful stuff in terms of how to use the silhouette and how to use the isolate tool. And that's pretty much it. Thanks.